So the topic, as you all know, it's analyzing ourselves and our opponents. Okay, and to begin, we would like to know, what do you think that analyzing mean? What does it mean? Analyze. What's the first idea that come to your mind when we think about analyzing? So whoever wants to talk, just turn your mic on and you can share with us.
So Scott from Viva, I think analyzing to me means making an assessment based on observed evidence. So making an assessment based on what I observe from evidence in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree, and take it a step further and saying, broadening on assessment, saying, what are the strengths and weaknesses of our personnel, of our style, of our approach to the game, and then if you're talking about the other opponent as well, and how that blends, or what do you do?
All right, great.
Any other ideas, guys?
This is the first question to break the ice. Like, very easy. What do you think that analyzing mean?
And I think for me, analyzing is, again, what kind of has already been said, and reiterating, looking at what you have, the strengths and weaknesses of your players, understanding what they can and can't do, and then building off that as far as building objectives and team objectives and personnel objectives on an individual basis. And then as far as analyzing the other team, kind of the same thing. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the teams that we're playing, and how can we exploit with the attributes that we have to be able to try to be successful?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if anyone wants to share any other thing about analyzing, the definition would be great. But I think that we have some good, interesting points, and maybe we can move forward to the next question. Okay, next question would be, what do we analyze? And this, I leave it very open to you, because I want to hear what you think about this. What are we analyzing? What do we analyze?
I would say, building on what Karen said, all teams play in a system. So when we assess an opponent, there's probably some basic things we want to first observe and assess, which would be, what system or formations, what style of play they're utilizing, and then who are the key players in those roles for that system of play. So if they're in a 4-4-2 and they build out of the back, what are the qualities, the key player qualities perhaps of the goalkeeper and the outside backs and the center backs, right? So trying to assess each functional unit, each logical unit within the system of play is how I would start drilling down. So once I understand the formation and the system and the style, then I start looking at those logical groups of players and how those logical groups of players and their player actions interact with each other. So does the 6 drop off, to collect out of the back? Are there double 6s, double pivots? So those types, identifying those types of player actions as it relates to the team that I'm assessing. I think carrying that forward, I think what Karen then said is really important, which is, how does that system, formation, and style of play interact with mine? So understanding my system, my style, my formation, and the key qualities of the players in those roles. How does the opponent's game plan, if we can call it a game plan, work with my system, against my system? So that's kind of how I would go through my process of analyzing. I would start from the back forward, assess the system, try to figure out what style they're playing within the thirds, the defensive third, the middle third, and the attacking third. And then what are the key qualities of the players in that system of play? Over.
Thank you so much, Scott. Thank you for being so clear about your the way you understand this. So that's good.
Then, Scott, for you, it's important to analyze both the rival and how the rival interacts with your team. Okay. Any other point of view, guys?
This is a lot less sophisticated than what Scott just said, but I find myself watching the warm-up of the opponent and looking for, I'm thinking, you think that, U11 girls, looking at their technical ability. Does anybody stand out? How are they moving? How are they warming up? Is it balls and lines? Is it rondo? What are they doing? That's one thing I watch, just to see, okay, what can we expect with regard to their sophistication and technical abilities.
Okay, and how much it affects our decisions or our performance. What we observe in the rivals, how much importance do we give to that?
I would say from my standpoint personally, it doesn't affect as much because my analyzations of what my players are doing and how that can help them improve and be successful. And then within that, helping my players understand, analyze, pass that analyzation off to help them kind of understand and figure out the strengths and weaknesses of their opponents as well. So from a standpoint of, it's more important to me to analyze my players, their movements, their understanding of the games, and how they can be successful in helping them forward before I analyze the opponents. But that's just, and I think it depends on the age groups as well, because I think the analyzation of the opponent differs from like what Karen said, a U11 girls as opposed to like a U17 boys or something of that nature. So.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. What the other guys think? We are discussing about a topic that is so interesting. We analyze ourselves. We analyze the rival. How much or how much importance do we give to that? And it's not easy question, and it's not 100% truth.
Well, and so I coach the U11s and U12 boys, and kind of going with what Todd says. I kind of do what he says, focus mainly on my players and their personal objectives, and then what the team objective is. So working with the individual mainly, and then pretty much just like he said, like asking them questions so that they're analyzing the game instead of me making decisions for them and me analyzing the game for them.
That's great. I think that maybe, Victor, we could ask the next question that is very related to this one and we will ask you about the work that you are doing as a coach when you analyze. What do we want to achieve when we analyze? What is the aim of the analysis? What do you think it is?
to make a player better players.
And how can we make that?
Well, the analyzation of a team should be like on day in and day out. I mean, within the game and as well in practice. So every time we're on the pitch, we should analyze the team and our players. So like that, we can see flaws and we can see what we need to work on to make them better players.
Yeah, I would agree with Raphael. I think there's two parts. I think we assess an opponent and we assess our team to help both understand where our player actions need to improve. So if we have an outside back who can't track runs, and we assess that that common trait or that common habit or issue, then perhaps that's an area where that player can develop. I also think on the tactical side, we also use analysis or game analysis for tactical development, so that we can build the team tactical principles that our team should or would deploy in our system, and how they can benefit our team against an opponent. So if we see that a team always plays over the midfield, and we observe that trend from analysis, and we identify the trend that they play over the midfield, then perhaps we need to sit in a lower block defensively, right, to absorb that play instead of being exposed defensively. So I think game analysis, to Raphael's point, definitely helps us develop players within the construct of our team. And then it also helps us tactically to develop a game plan, that term game plan, to perhaps win or to perhaps have a strategy to beat an opposing team, but recognizing the players are the ones who play, not the coaches. So if we don't develop the players, then it's pointless.
What do the rest of you guys think? Do you agree with what Raphael and Scott said? Do you have any other point of view that you would like to share? That would be great. What do you think?
I think from agreeing with both of them, I mean, from an individual standpoint, the analysis is constant individual analysis of, for instance, fitness, for instance, body movements, understanding of what they can and can't do, the objectives of what we're trying to help them accomplish, how to get better as a player. When you look at team structure, tactics, and all that, understanding when teams play certain ways, what your team can handle and what they can't, and trying to help players understand and analyze how to be successful versus those different formations and situations, whether it be the same team over and over again or different teams. They should be able to recognize what's going on in front of them as individuals and adjust. So I think the analyzation is also for their soccer IQ, as well as our analyzation to be able to make them a better player from a technical standpoint as well.
I was going to say, yeah, the soccer cognition piece of it. And that's what I'm finding when we're doing these analyses during this time, especially with the younger ones. Lots of light bulbs are going off as they're watching themselves play, and, being able to stop the game and ask them what they see. What are the different choices? What are the options? Which one may be a better one? Which one would be a less good one? And having them develop their understanding of the game in a way that's harder to do in real time.
It's so interesting. I don't want to wait for the end of the presentation to just say you congratulations. I don't say it's the right answer, it's the wrong answer, because it doesn't exist. But what we can see is that you have a think about the things. And that's the best way to improve in football. And all the answers that you give, they have a background of reflection, and I'm enjoying a lot. I'm enjoying a lot all the answers. Nano, what do you think?
I think that we are talking about many different things, but I really like that we are maybe all in the same pathway, maybe. So what do you think about if we go to the next slide and we keep talking about this?
Mm-hmm.
So the next question would be, who should be responsible or who should take the lead in the analysis? And I think that this is a question that I would like to listen to all of you, and or most of you, if you want to share with us, what do you think about this?
I mean, I'll start. I think it's important from an analysis standpoint for us as coaches to give the information, to give not necessarily point the direction, but just like you are kind of doing with this presentation, allowing the conversation and the players to that standpoint should lead the analysis, because I think the discussion between the players builds communication, builds trust. And then it's our job as coaches to kind of lead them to other points of success, rather than us telling them what to do and kind of, do you see this, do you see that? So it's kind of the same as the directional, coaching style.
What else, guys? Is so difficult question, and it's not always the same answer. Try to go farther.
So at the player level, I think, analysis, I think one of the problems we have in youth soccer is we don't give our players enough credit. We tend to focus on the technical because the technical is easy to do. It's easy to put a player on a ball and do something. I think it's harder as a coach to teach that player how to think. And sometimes as a coach, we shy away from that because we're uncomfortable. So I think teaching kids that it's important that they ask questions of themselves and of their coaches and of what's happening is important. And it puts us in an uncomfortable moment because sometimes those kids see things that maybe we don't see as coaches because they're actually playing in the game. So sometimes as a player, and most of us have all played, when you're playing in a game, your perspective is very different than the coach's perspective who's maybe on the sideline or watching video. So I think as a coach, we should be responsible in forcing our kids to ask questions of the game and being humble enough and comfortable enough that those perspectives might change our ideas. So I think we don't give kids enough. I don't think we push our kids enough tactically. I think as youth coaches, and I've coached U9 and now I coach, U19 all over the place. But, I think it's important even at U10, U11 that we ask those questions of the players so that they start questioning themselves why they're on the field and identifying what's happening around them in a more meaningful way versus just reacting to the ball. So I tell my players all the time, live in the next moment. If you were going to live in the next moment, what's that moment look like? So I think they get there by building their analytical skills. Of course, the coach is responsible for the tactical game plan and the big picture. That's the coach's job. But the players are responsible for helping them assess the game. So I would just say, I think we are too focused on technical at times with youth players and not enough tactically. Because I see them when they get to 11v11 at U13, U14, some of the basic principles of play, they don't understand those basic principles because no one's ever questioned them on them. So I think as a coach, we have to question our players and give them tools to kind of assess what's happening around them. Over.
Thanks for sharing it, Todd and Scott. I think that you both talk about a very interesting answer about who should be the responsible, or who should be an important part of the analysis. I would love to hear more opinions. What you have to say, the rest of you.
Scott said the word tools, giving them the tools to use. That struck a tone with me, because that's what I was going to say before is, you know, especially when thinking about the younger players. I had an experience in the first time I was doing video analysis where I made the assumption that they understood what they were looking at. This is one of the animations that you guys sent us. And so we jumped right into the questions, and in their responses, it was clear they weren't quite sure who was attacking what goal, and just having them understand, you know, saying to them, okay, what do you see here? You know, and having them understand just even directionally which way the ball is going and which players are going in what direction. That was eye-opening for me, that it didn't, you know, for us, we see it all the time. We know what we're looking at. For them, they were a little bit confused to start. So just thinking about that is giving them the tools to see what do we mean and what are we looking at, and then having them take it from there. I'm planning to move my sessions to a little bit more player driven, and having them look at some tape and then pose questions to their teammates. Not quite sure we're there yet, but I'm hoping to get there in the next week or two. But I think, you know, there's both player, and as they get older, and both player and coach have the responsibility. They may need some hand holding and guiding to start though.
Thank you so much, Karen.
I would like to ask a question, if they want, to think about who learns more, the person who is explaining and reflecting about a thing, or the person who is listening the other person talking. I mean, if I'm the coach and I'm telling the players what to do, or if I'm telling the players, or are the players learning in the same extent as if the players are thinking about a scenario? The auditive inputs that we receive remains in the memory in the same way than if I explain a thing? What do you think?
If I may add, from an individual player standpoint, I learn as the coach a lot more based on my analysis of the player, and I don't know if that makes sense. So, for instance, I have a player doing fitness last night because we're allowed to run around now, and I noticed he was struggling. So my analysis is he's struggling. So the question is, okay, what did you do over the 2 months? Coach, I ate Chinese buffet before I came to training. So there's the answer on why the kid is struggling running at the night. So the analysis teaches me a lesson, as long as them, when it comes to a team, it's the same thing. So my analysis and my points And the questions I ask lead me to believe more about the understanding of what my players understand, and on a team in a holistic and an individual basis, which allows me to guide them in the direction they need to be guided. So from that standpoint, even though I may have more of the insight and the information, I learn much more. I believe I learn much more than the player does, but at the same instance, maybe a teammate learns more about their teammate by their answer. So I guess at the end of the day, the answer is everybody learns. You know, everybody comes out on the better side of it. So.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. Normally, it depends on the individual, but normally when we make an information, when we need to create an information, we learn more that if we only listen the information and we do nothing with the information. And this is related with the question. And I love your answers. And I just wanted to put some psychological topic about how learning works.
Where we were. And if anyone wants to add something to the question that Victor asked, that would be great. Like, or even to this one, to who should be the responsible, or who should take the lead, or be part of the analysis.
I can also create more doubts. Is always the player the responsible? Or maybe sometimes the player need that the coach take the responsibility because they are in an emotional moment that they are not ready for taking the responsibility, and we need to take that step in front. We have spoken about some interesting things, but the thing is deeper, is even deeper, and it's difficult. And it will depend on which is my team, what age, what is the emotional moment, what is the scenario, what is the context, who is the player. Maybe some players, they have fantastic skills inside of the pitch, and when you ask them to verbalize what are they doing, they don't know to reflect about that. So, sorry to create more doubts, guys.
No, I think what you're talking about there is about knowing your players, right? And knowing them holistically, but also in their moments. And we talk about it a lot in our coaching education is, meeting everyone where they are. And again, also understanding that different players and personalities and understanding of the game and just maturity where they are in general are going to respond in different ways. And you have your natural leaders who are going to step forward, and you have others who need to be drawn out. But again, making sure that you're asking the questions, connecting with the players on an individual level will help you know their capabilities and how you can bring them along.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, fantastic. It's just what we are talking about. The knowledge of the team is so important, and it's not a universal theory. We have the theory and we have the science, but know your team, know your players, and it's so important.
Yeah, I think that in this question and the questions before, most of you were talking about how important the player is in this process, and you said many interesting things, like maybe we should question more the players, ask more the players, because maybe they see something that we don't see from the side, or maybe Us from the side, we see something that is going on the field, but when we ask them, they feel something different. So I think it's really, really good that, as you said, Karen, to know our players, and it's very related to our goal, our aim that we were saying before. Like some of you were talking also about that discussions between the players are really good for them to develop or to share their ideas and to understand what they are thinking and why they are doing maybe some things when they are on the field. So anyone wants to add something about this, like about the how the player can be part of the analysis? Anyone wants to add something? Okay, we can go forward then. And the next question will be a very interesting one. With which ages should we do analysis? What do you guys think? Here we have coaches from many different age groups, and I'm sure that you have a lot of interesting things to share with us from your teams.
I'd go back to what I said. I think you can engage with players at all ages just using different tools. So I see Moreno, from the professional level down to U9, I think we have to engage them differently and use different communication skills and technique. But I think we should engage with all ages. At U9, those players are committed. They want to learn. They want to have fun. And there's a way to engage them in questions, so that they can maybe discover a point or an issue. I think that's very different than when you're dealing with a U23 semi-professional player or collegiate player who probably understands the big picture or has the appreciation of what's happening. I think the way we engage with those players are a little bit different, but the end result should be the same, which is assessing the game, assessing what's happening, and assess what does it mean to the player. So I think it should happen at all ages, but use different technique.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Scott. Maybe using, like you said, maybe a less complex analysis at a younger age, but still diving into those complex analysis, but using it in a more general term so that they can understand it, but still getting that bigger picture out of it, so that at the older ages, you can grow into that, more in-depth, analysis. So I think even at the younger ages, at that U8, U9 ages, you can still get into analysis. It just needs to be a little bit more general. And then depending on each player, you could have a player that's really advanced at that age that you can get into more in-depth analysis with that individual, because that's what their needs are. So it's still understanding that individual player at that younger age as well.
Yeah, and I think to build on that is it's the building blocks of learning. So a 7 and 8 year old is not going to understand. So understanding and analyzing their needs and their understanding of the game and what they can do, and presenting it in a way there, and then building that and understanding your club and your organization and how you're building those steps through the ages to be able to have an end product at 19, 20, 21, whenever you're sending them off. So the analysis, I believe I agree with them. You can analyze, but you're analyzing based on their understanding, their age, their abilities, and everything that come into it. But I don't think you ever stop analyzing. So.
Fantastic, guys. I think you have so interesting reflections, and in my opinion, the last question is going to be so interesting, and we can create a fantastic dynamic, because all this together, you said that we need to analyze in all the ages, and the last question should be how. For example, I have a team of 8 years old. And most of you said that the important person in football is the player. How can I create a scenario with a 8 years old team in which I give the players the scenario to grow, to participate in the analysis? How would you do, for example?
I'm going to speak to this real quickly, and then I'm going to have to run. But I just want to say, when you all introduced the magnet boards to us, when you brought us the magnet boards, that became so valuable and really adored by the players. When it was magnet talk time at some point in practice, almost every practice, we'd have a magnet talk. They'd circle around and get so excited, and then they wanted to be the ones to manipulate it. Of course, you have to let them play a little bit first, and then because they're going to want to touch it. But and then having them, putting out a scenario on the magnet boards and then asking that question. And it can be something so simple, like where do we want to be on goal kicks or something like that. And then they get to physically move it and see it and then discuss the different pros and cons of that choice as a group. I think that's a great one with the little ones. A great idea with the little ones. It also works with the older players, but I think a good starting point for the youngest group.
And I'll say for us at Force, we're very, very fortunate to have a Cameron system to where we're able to look at all of our game film and some training sessions. So we're like, I know personally with my U11s, my U12s, I've sent them individual emails asking them questions of different scenarios that they've thought that they could improve on with their objectives, but also sent them 10, 15-second clips to where they can analyze those situations as well. So it's a very interactive way that I've used it. But we're also very fortunate that we do have that video system. So we analyzed a lot of film this past season since we got those cameras. So I think video analysis is a great way. I can't remember if it was Karen or Scott earlier in the conversation saying when they watch themselves, it kind of like a light bulb clicks and it becomes real. It becomes personal to them. So I think video analysis is a great way to do that.
Fantastic. We have two options. We have the option of using the Blackboard. We have the option of doing through video analysis. Any other option, guys?
Yeah, I think, again, this goes back to like the coach's toolkit. I think video is definitely a big part of the toolkit. The magnet boards that Karen talked is definitely part of our toolkit. But I also think sometimes we should also have our kids articulate stuff in writing. Even though we're in sports and we don't think about, kind of academic things, I think it's good to ask questions of players and have them write it down. Sometimes we learn when we write. So when we write things down and the kids can express themselves in words, it makes them think about it because they're trying to form sentences and make it readable. And I think that helps them think a little bit, right? So I would also say instead of just, for being visual and using visual senses, we can also have them maybe, articulate in writing questions and ask them questions and have them maybe on a PowerPoint slide, put those thoughts down on a PowerPoint slide and maybe they can show a graphic or a screenshot from video, but make them write, because the studies show we learn when we write, which is why our teachers made us write papers and all of these horrible things we hated in school, is because it forced us to learn. So I think, again, we don't just have to teach athletes how to be athletic. We also have to teach athletes how to think and learn. And I think when they write, that could be another part of the toolkit. Over.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. And what happens if we change the dynamic? What can we add if the team is 14 years old and we are analyzing not our team, the rival team? Think about it. How can we create a dynamic in which we are analyzing a rival, 14 years old team, and we want to create a scenario in which the player takes responsibility of the analysis and the player improves their understanding of the game? What can we do?
Communicate. Reflection. I think everything in the moment, without the post-game video analysis or anything like that. Within the moment, it's reflection, it's understanding, it's observation. So from our standpoint, continually asking the questions. If you're asking them to analyze, the player playing their position on the opposite team, or the structure of the team, or the philosophy or the style of the opposing team, continue to ask and use that reflection and communication. So it's constant, with 14s, with 17s, with 8-year-olds. In the moment, it's just continuing that constant communication between coach and player, and allowing player to player communication so that they continue to build their IQ on what's going on. So.
One of the tools that I like to use with, let's say, U14s at that age, who are just learning really 11v11, is I like to kind of pit them up against their opponent on video. So if I'm working with the center backs, I have those center backs watch the video of the number 9 or the number 10, the forwards on the other team. So I like to use like the logical groups against each other. So I just did a scenario a couple of weeks ago with my U15s where they had to watch their opposing logical unit. So the center backs had to watch the forwards, the outside backs had to watch the wingers, the midfielders, the 6 was watching the 10. So just to get them to think about what they would hopefully see in the game, kind of where they match up. So I think that's a technique you can use with video, is not just have them watch any part of the video, but have them kind of watch where their activities most often occur against the opponent that they would most often see. Or
Anyone else, guys? So interesting. Todd said to continue communicating. Scott told us about creating a scenario. We have a lot of scenarios that we can create. Do you think it's a good age to start teaching the players to cut videos, maybe, or to analyze videos? I don't know. Just think about your teams. Could be a good idea to put the players in groups, and each week one group talks to the team about the opponent. Again, I don't know. It's your team. I just create possible scenarios.
I think even in video analysis, again, going to age group and cognitive understanding, the younger they are, the video analysis is used more for the individual and personal. And then as they get older, it is geared more towards the tactical of the opponent. But I think once you get into that 11-12 small-sided 9v9 in this country, or in this state. I don't know. Maybe other states do different. And then you get into the first association with 11v11 in the big field. It's kind of a mix of both. So the personal and that. So I think you can start the understanding of spatial awareness, positional responsibility, things of that nature that aren't necessarily total tactical what the other team is doing, but how the other team is affecting those attributes of the game at the 11, 12, 13 year old level. Because I think even with an 11-year-old, teaching an outside back to get up and down the field and what times and what advantages it is to, and the decision making on the proper moments can also lead into 14s, that person playing an outside, a flank, a mid, understanding those. So I think it's a building process as well. And then as you get to 18 and 19, yes, a lot of it is about, this is what that team is doing, what can we be doing in that moment to be successful against what that is. So I think it's just a building process.
Yeah, I agree with you. At the end, maybe the tools, or how do I say it, the equipment or the things that we are able to use are not the same in all the teams. But here everyone said some strategies or some things that could work for everyone. And of course, as you said, Todd, the thing about communicating, reflect, and try to make the player responsible and try to see what they understand is something that we are always allowed to do. Maybe we think about analysis sometimes and we only think that it's video, but also analysis can mean that we are only asking something to the player at the halftime, and he or she tell us what they are watching, what they see inside the field, what they think that could be solutions for the problem or the game that they are or the situation that they are facing. Okay, so I think it's what you are all saying is very, very interesting, and maybe the point that we reach here is that we all understand how important the player is, and that we should try to understand a bit more what they think, because we have, I think that in my opinion, we have a lot of things to learn, and they can tell us many, many good things, and it's our job as a coach is to try to understand and try to find what is going on in their heads regarding to the games, to the situations, to the drills that we are preparing in training. I think that we can be able to work on that, even though we have video or we don't, or we have magnet boards, or just, as Scott said, asking questions and asking them to write them down. So I really, really like all the points that you were sharing, and I really appreciate to listen a bit about your opinions. So let me just stop sharing the screens and we can see each other again. That's better. Yeah.
Why can't we see Tyler? What's going on there? What's he hiding?
His haircut.
Okay, guys, from me,
Yeah,
just
apparently.
sorry, Tyler.
No,
Were
go
you-
ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
Good haircut, Tyler.
From me, just final thoughts. How can we be coherent in our process? If we say the player is the most important in football. Okay, we are giving him importance in the process of analysis, but later, based on that analysis, do we give importance to the players on the decisions? Because they were principal and they were actors of the video analysis or of the analysis. Who decides later? Maybe we have analyzed our team, or the player has analyzed the team. If they have analyzed the team, are them in the position to make a decision about how the team is going to play? Do you think the player is more motivated if they have decisions about how the team is going to play? I don't know. It's just questions. I don't have the answers, but we can go further, and you will see in your teams. You will see how is your team, if they are prepared, if they are in the moment to do that, if they are not. And think also about the psychological aspects that we are working. If we give importance to player in the analysis, we are working things like autonomy. We are working things like responsibility. We are working things like teamwork. I don't know, but I think we gain in the long term. Maybe we gain more things than we lose. But again, guys, experience with your teams. You know better than anyone. What do you have?
Well, and I think to that point, if you're analyzing and doing the correct things over the years, from 8 years old to all that stuff, I think eventually the responsibilities go hand in hand. The coach's responsibility is to set up the team based on his analysis on what he sees, and then hopefully the understanding, the education, the IQ, the cognitive, and everything else of the player allows them to observe, understand, reflect, and be able to adapt in those situations. So at the end of the line, 18, 19 in our clubs, the hope is the coach says, this is what we want to do because of what he notices. The player steps on the field, understands what's going on, sees, focuses, and adjusts as they have to do, and everybody's in consistency. There's continuity in what everybody does. So if the club's doing the right thing through analysis from the age of 8 all the way through, I think that's what you build. So.
And I think to touch on that, I don't know if we mentioned it, and I just want to mention that's also analyzing ourselves as coaches as well. So even with these meetings, like we're doing the coaches meetings, that's because we want to get better as coaches. So understanding those, if we don't understand at the age group at 8 what we want at 18, we're not going to be able to help them at 8 or 9 going up through the process, because 18 is that end goal, or 22 or whatever age. So I think even our own analysis of ourselves is important as well.
And is one of the most difficult, Tyler, to analyze ourselves.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Tyler. I think as a coach, and I'm an older guy, I'm getting towards the end of my career. You have to be humble to realize that there's more to learn. Like, I learn new things every day. And I learn often not from other 50-year-old men like Julio and I. Julio and I were older. I learned more from Nano and Victor and Alexander, and right, like sometimes new thinking is even more important. Like, we have a tendency to only be comfortable talking to our peers, but more often than not, it's people who have a fresh idea or a fresh approach. That's usually where we learn. So being humble enough to recognize that there's constant learning. And as I get older, I realize how much I didn't know, or how little I knew. And often the people teaching me are not the people I thought that would be teaching me, including my players. Coaching 16-year-old girls, 17-year-old girls, you learn more about what you're not than what you are. So I think that's important too. But yeah, I agree. And I really want to just thank all of you again. It's late at night for you guys. And again, you're spending a lot of time with us. And we definitely appreciate it. Over.
Thanks to you, Scott, and thanks to the rest of the coaches. As you said, for us, we love staying at night here and talking about these kind of things, because we also learn a lot. We learn a lot. So for us, this is a great chance to listen to you and to share with you ideas. And believe me that we are learning from you guys a lot of things in these meetings, and we really appreciate that. So I want to say thanks to all of you.
So Nana, what you're saying is you, Julio, and Victor, we can call you at any time and have these discussions with you personally, right? Even if it's like 3 o'clock in the morning for you guys, yeah? Because I would love that.
That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm, my understanding.
That's what I'm getting from it. But honestly, thank you guys. Like this is great. Like, and like I doing these meetings. I would love to continue these throughout. For the next couple, learn a lot more from your peers, like Scott was saying. Definitely appreciate you guys and everyone else here in the States as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think from our standpoint, it's, and I've said it before, is our mission in this whole thing was develop players and coaching staff. And I think between this and what you guys have done with our players and staff, there isn't a single person in this club that doesn't understand that we're a part of you and you're a part of us. So I appreciate it, and we're one of the lucky ones to be able to go back out on the fields next week. But we definitely want to continue, because I think if anything these 2 months have done for us that the 6 months prior haven't, is given us the ability to communicate more on a better level with everybody. Because before this, I only, I knew Nano, Julio, but now I know everybody, and Ismail, and so now it's great. So I think from this standpoint, and getting to know the other academies around the world has been good. So I appreciate it. I know we appreciate it as an organization, and I just hope the rest of you guys are as lucky as us soon to be able to get back on the field as soon as possible.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. At the end, as you said, we all want to come back to the field, to start working, because that's where we love to be. And what we really appreciate too is that you try to find a lot of ways to still work with your players, to still develop as coaches. And one example is that you joined to this kind of meetings, and yeah, of course, we hope that we can be soon back on the field working again.
Well, I'm due another trip to Spain, so it has to change soon, because
Yeah.
I have to come back,
Hey, so am I. I second that. I second that opinion.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. I can't just say nothing because I don't know now nothing this topic. Today, our experience is the Nano and the Victor. I don't know nothing. Yo no sé nada de este tema. Vosotros sois los que sabéis todo. Tradúceles, ¿no?
He said that he don't know anything about this topic, and that Victor and I, we are the ones that we know about it.
But he's lying, because also Nano and me, we know nothing about this.
Yeah, we have no idea.
Wasn't Julio the coach that took the team to Dallas Cup and made the finals? You might know a little bit about analyzation. I don't know.
Who? You're talking about the Dallas Cup?
Julio, weren't you part of the staff that went to Dallas Cup with your 19s last year?
Que si eras parte del equipo que iba, del cuerpo técnico que iba con el sub-19 a Dallas.
Fui 2 años. Uno con U19 o U17 y el otro con U12.
He went with two years with under 17 and under 12.
So it was the 17s that went to the finals last year? 2 years ago? Last year?
Los del año pasado
no.
No, not last year.
Yo no estaba ahí.
He was not there last year.
Oh. Yes, you were.
No. Estaba contigo.
Sí.
Sí,
I saw pictures.
Estaba contigo, ¿no? ¿No?
Cuando fuimos a North Carolina, sí. Pero no, a Dallas no.
Dallas, Texas.
No.
Dallas Cup. My point is, you know how to analyze.
Yo estaba
He's
contigo.
lying. My point is, you're lying. You know how to analyze. So.
Que decía que el punto al que quería llegar es que mentimos, que sí que sabes analizar.
No. ¿Quién, yo?
Sí.
Lo importante es lo que habéis hecho, es compartir y ver diferentes puntos de vista, y es muy interesante todo lo que habéis dicho y todo lo que habéis opinado cada uno.
He said that the important thing is that we share, that we show some different points of view, and to listen to some different opinions.
Quizás nuestra experiencia es que hemos podido hacer análisis desde todos los ámbitos, pero al final, evidentemente, tenemos claro desde dónde lo queremos hacer.
He also said that maybe our experience is that maybe we have been doing analysis in many different ways, but he said that we are very clear about how we want to do it.
¿Desde dónde nos resulta más eficaz?
From where or from which point we believe that it's more efficient.
Guys, I think it is all.
Yeah, we have 1 minute to go, but I just wanted to say again, thank you for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Thank you,
Adios.
I appreciate it.
Adios. Bye.
Hey, guys.